The Total Screen proudly presents their official podcast, On Screen, with your hosts, Tyson Gifford and William Rohrig. Hello, everybody, and welcome to On Screen, the official podcast of the Total Screen. My name is Tyson.
My name is Will.
And today we are going to be talking about the best of 2023. We have picked our favorites in various categories across movies, TV and streaming series, games, and we have given our special awards to them, and we're going to go over those and announce the games that we think win in each of these categories, as well as runner-ups for each one as well. So each separate ones for Will and I. So Will made his picks, I made mine, and we're going to go over those. Before that, we also have an On the Horizon segment where we're going to talk about what's coming up in the next week, and that's where we're going to start with On the Horizon. On the Horizon. This week on the Horizon, True Detective Night Country comes out on Sunday, January 14th on HBO and Max. So yeah, I mean, been hearing good things. It's been getting some good reviews already. Season 1 of True Detective was great. Season 3 was great. We'll have to see how Season 4 turns out, but so far word has been positive. You excited for True Detective?
Oh, yes. Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait to watch it.
Then on Monday, January 15th, the 75th Primetime Emmy Awards airs on Fox. I didn't even realize the Golden Globes were airing until, it had already aired and people were talking about the winners on Twitter.
Yeah.
I just don't keep up with that anymore. But yeah, that's coming on Monday, January 15th. Death and Other Details, which is a new murder mystery starring Mandy Patinkin from Criminal Minds and, God, what was that show that Brian Fuller did on Showtime about the Grim Reapers?
Dead Like Me.
Dead Like Me, yes. Mandy Patinkin was also in Dead Like Me, but this is a murder mystery series starring Mandy Patinkin, and it's coming on Tuesday, January 16th to Hulu.
Mandy Patinkin was also in the Princess Bride.
Yes.
Yes.
And somebody killed his father and must prepare to die.
Exactly.
Has Been Hotel, which is a new animated comedy about a group of devils trying to create rehabilitation in hell. And that is coming on Friday, January 19th to Amazon Prime. The Kitchen, which is about wealth disparity in a near future dystopic London, is coming on Friday, January 19th to Netflix. Prince of Persia and the Lost Crown, that is coming on Thursday, January 18th to PC, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, and Switch. That is the new side-scrolling Prince of Persia Metroidvania type game. Another Code Recollection, which is a pack of 2 Another Code games that have been remade for Nintendo Switch, is coming out on Friday, January 19th. And The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered is also coming out on Friday, January 19th, but to the PS5. That is it for our On the Horizon segment. And now we have our last segment, our only major real segment this week, the best of 2023. The best of 2023. An on-screen podcast special. We had a whole musical number planned, but Will lost the dance routine. He lost all of our notes. Damn it.
Yeah. Damn it.
You were gonna be able to enjoy a nice dance routine in the audio of our podcast.
We also invited Joe Coy to host, but he couldn't make it.
Yeah, he apologized that he could not attend.
Yeah.
But yeah, we made picks in a bunch of categories. We adjust our categories every year. We add a few new ones, take some out that we just didn't think were as important. We do this every year, and we each make our own picks and our own runner-ups. And we did that this year as well. And we're going to start off with excellence in artistic production for a movie. Now, Will, tell me what your runner-up was.
Okay, my runner-up was the Super Mario Brothers movie. I thought the animation was excellent. they did a great job of, they nailed the Mario look, the Mario style.
Mm-hmm.
It looked genuinely Mario, it didn't look like the Super Mario Bros. Super Show or like an off-brand Mario. They nailed it. I thought they did great with that.
Yeah, Illumination did a good job. Like, they don't usually stand out for having, like, good animation or good art quality in their animation,
Right.
With all the other players in the field, they've never really stood out there. But the Super Mario Brothers movie looks excellent. It looks true to Mario, but it kind of adds its own elements too. I like how the mushrooms looks kind of cushy, almost like beanbag chairs.
Oh, yeah. That is a fantastic touch.
Yeah. My runner-up was The Holdovers, which I'm giving this award because it just kind of has an interesting look. It was made to look very much like it's from the 70s, from like the early 70s. And they did a really good job from everything from the sound design to the set dressing to the lighting is kind of flat. When you look at like pictures from the 70s, they just kind of have this kind of weird flat look to them. It kind of has that throughout the movie. Like, it kind of has that appearance, and the sound is a little bit tinny, like you would see like a TV show or a movie in the 70s, had like the audio is a little tinny. So I think they kind of did a really good job of like representing that era.
Yeah, for sure.
So tell me your winner.
Okay, my winner was Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Again, for third time in a row, James Gunn nails it. Is one of the visually best Marvel movies to come out.
Probably the visually best Marvel movie ever, maybe.
Maybe. Like,
it's up there, at least like that and Thor Ragnarok, probably.
Yeah, so at least on par with the other Guardians movies for me. The Guardians movies, like, they're always a visual spectacle, and this one didn't disappoint in that department.
Yeah, definitely. Beautiful looking movie. My winner was TMNT Mutant Mayhem. It kind of is taking a little bit of what was done with like the Spider-Verse movies, the animated Spider-Verse movies, where they did a lot stylistically, but they did a lot with like outlines and stuff, or the outlines of the characters they're 3D model characters, but they look hand drawn because of the way that the outlines and everything are presented, and nothing really looks like clean in the way it does when you're watching like a CG movie. Like, everything, all the backgrounds look kind of uneven in like this kind of refreshing way. Like, they don't have that like overly polished look that you expect from like a CG animated movie. They put a lot of effort into that. I think they did a fantastic job.
Yeah, for sure.
Next category is excellence in artistic production for a game. My runner-up was Octopath Traveler 2. This is nothing new. If you've seen the HD 2D style, it's kind of, you could mostly say copy and paste, except with every new HD 2D game, they kind of like push it a little bit further. They start moving more into like, okay, we're going to use more like 3D models within this space, but still make it look kind of flat in 2D. And they find like new ways to kind of do that. And Octopath Traveler 2 is the best example of that yet, because it's the most recent of the HD 2D games, and that art style is obviously fantastic.
Yeah, oh yeah, I love that art style.
Tell me your runner-up.
Okay, my runner-up was Super Mario Bros. Wonder. I mean, the game looks fantastic. Visually, it's decent. We had sort of a debate about this when it was announced, but like actually having played it now just reinforced my original impression that while the new Super Mario Bros. Games looked plastic and flat, this looks so much vibrant. It has so much more life in the graphics.
I agree with that. I still think it looks very much like a new Super Mario Brothers game, but when you see it in motion, that's when it really changes. That's when it really takes off. There's so much life and flavor put into the animation, especially. Mm-hmm. But then also the things like all the Wonder Seeds and stuff, just all the weird stuff that happens in the game adds so much spice to it that it's like, it becomes acceptable. Like, it's kind of annoying if you just look at like a screenshot or something, it doesn't necessarily look that great. It looks like, oh, it's a new game. But then you see it in motion and you see like Mario grab his hat when he goes through the pipe. All these like little touches and stuff, I think really just add so much life to it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
That was actually my winner for best artistic production.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, which you wouldn't think so with my complaints about the new Super Mario Bros.-ness of it, but I think that flavor, when I say it's like that, but with flavor added, I think flavor is so important.
Well, yeah, it is. The animations make a huge difference because like the characters are so expressive now, they feel more alive.
Yeah, definitely. You feel more invested when you're playing the game just because everything's just moving in such a way that it just inspires that.
Oh, for sure.
What is your winner?
My winner was Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Not surprised. I mean, it's kind of a cheat. it doesn't change anything artistically for Breath of the Wild, but again, I love Breath of the Wild's art style. And
that's basically the only reason it wasn't for me, is that I'm like,
Yeah.
I couldn't justify giving it because it's so similar. But then again, I mean, I did that with Octopath Traveler too, so
Yeah,
I
right.
need to get off my own
Yeah.
high horse there.
So yeah, it's a winner in my eyes. I don't know, it was tough picking between the two games, to be honest. But yeah, I think I'm happy where it ended up.
They did add some stuff like with the depths and like
Yes.
the those hands that are terrifying.
Yes.
And Ganondorf himself is like really cool looking, especially when he gets all powered up.
Oh yeah, they did a fantastic job with Ganondorf.
Yeah, so there's some cool stuff, definitely some cool stuff there. Plus also like the coolest looking Master Sword, I think.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Our next category is excellence in artistic production for a TV or streaming series. Will, tell us your runner-up.
Okay, my runner-up was Loki. I mean, come on. It's Loki. It looks fantastic. Of course, it has one of the best visual set pieces of anything this year at the end there, where Loki is threading the strands of time together and he becomes the master of all time. That whole sequence is just stunning.
Yeah, they also did a lot of cool stuff with the spaghettification.
Yes.
Of so many things. It just really kind of became a thing. And I liked Loki's when he was time slipping and the effect of that. It was really interesting looking. I think Loki in general, both season 1 and season 2, did a really good job of tying together this kind of bureaucratic, boring style, but with this extraordinary, multiverse agency that just happens to be planted somewhere in the middle of space-time. And having those two in such stark contrast and just presenting a very iconic look and having all that come together is just really cool. And I enjoy that. I really like the stuff in Lost, when they have the pneumatic tubes and Lost, and all these kind of weird computer green shade scale computer monitors and stuff like that.
Yeah, really
and
cool.
how that kind of adds to the combined look of that show. And Loki definitely has a look, a very specific look that stands out.
Yes, it does. Yeah, it had a very specific style to it.
Yeah, definitely. My runner-up was Fargo. I think every season of Fargo is excellent with its artistic production. I think they do a lot with horizon shots and stuff. There was a cool shot in one of the episodes recently where they showed a horizon and it faded to another horizon. It was just a really cool shot that really made use of that line. I really dug that. I also think a lot of the characters are there's so many weird touches to the characters to make them quirky and interesting. The lawyer character with the white eye patch and the all white hair and stuff.
Yes, yeah.
He just looks like some kind of weird comic book villain or something.
He
in
does.
In a show that's a bit more naturalistic for the most part, or
oh,
Roy
yeah.
Tillman and the nipple rings, It's just such a weird little touch that adds so much, flavor to that character and to that who he is,
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, so I really liked that that was my runner up. Tell me your winner.
Okay, my winner was One Piece.
Same.
Because man, and I couldn't see anything else winning this simply because the task of translating One Piece from a manga in an anime.
It's impossible. How?
How'd they do that? How'd they make it look so convincing and not make it look goofy as hell?
I heard somebody compare it to they kind of presented it almost like a stage play, and I really like that comparison.
Yeah.
I think that's a smart way of handling it, and it's not something I would have ever thought of to do it that way. But it really does kind of have a stage play look to it,
Yes, it does. It's interesting. I felt they absolutely nailed it. To me, they did the impossible. So, I mean, that's why it's the winner.
Yeah, definitely. I gave it the winner as well, and that's why, exactly. It's just the sheer audacity that they did it.
Yes.
And it worked.
Yes. If I wanted to compare, Cowboy Bebop looked good. It didn't look as convincing as this.
Yeah, definitely. There's other reasons that's convincing too, and I think we're going to get to that in some other categories, but we're going to move on now to technical production. So we're starting with excellence in technical production in a movie. My runner-up is The Creator, which is that movie about the AI and the little boy robot. It's kind of a lone wolf and cub story. It just has a fantastic look to it. It's from the director of Rogue One, the Star Wars Rogue One movie. And he just kind of, this is his own thing. I have a lot of problems with the movie. I think like the stories kind of doesn't make a lot of sense. It kind of falls apart in a lot of areas, but the production design is stunning. It has like, there's a lot of like cyberpunk influence, a lot of like old Chinese influence. There's this kind of like almost, what's that movie with the aliens in South Africa?
Oh, District 9? I want to say
it almost has like a District 9, like kind of poverty overlapping on a city kind of design to it in some shots and stuff. There's just like a fantastic amount of work went into like making this look right, and it looks like great. It doesn't necessarily do anything artistically that really stuns me, but just the production scale for a movie that mostly flew under the radar is really top notch. What was your runner-up?
My runner-up was Evil Dead Rise.
Oh, fantastic. That was in the running for me too.
Oh, yes. I mean, there's so many cool sequences in that. Like, one thing that really impressed me technically in that movie was like the elevator sequence.
Mm-hmm.
That was really cool. Like, how they did that, like how they had it filling with blood. They had all kinds of things happening in that.
Yeah, this is a fairly low budget movie that was originally supposed to be like a streaming movie. It was supposed to be on HBO Max. And then they ended up moving it to theaters, and it really deserved it because it's too good to be like a streaming only movie. And, they did a really excellent job with it. And, you know, part of that is just like living up to what Evil Dead represents and nailing that tone. And I think they did that really well. And it's a good example of where it doesn't have to be like a $300 million movie to be an excellent technical production.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You could do great things on a budget.
My winner is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Just, you mentioned it in the artistic things, so many stunning things, but there's other stuff that like I was surprised by that I learned about later. Like there's a shot in the opening of the movie or towards the opening of the movie where like you see the characters all kind of doing the typical characters walking in slow motion towards the camera shot that you always get in James Gunn movies. And Nebula is holding a passed out Peter Quill. He's like passed out drunk. That Peter Quill is a dummy. That's not him. That's a dummy that they made because they wanted it to look like it was really easy to lift. And they said that dummy was like 20 pounds or something.
Yeah.
Just the fact that they made this Peter Quill dummy that looks exactly like Chris Pratt, like it's just flawless. And it's like this 20-pound thing, like that alone like blows my mind that they can do that on a technical level these days, you know? But then a lot of the CG is really good in it too. And I mean, they've always outdo themselves with the animals in the James Gunn movies, with Rocket especially, you know, and all of the Guardians movies. But like here, man, they really, it's kind of hard to do like CG animals and like absolutely break your heart. And they did that with Guardians.
Oh, what? Oh, 100%. They did such a fantastic job with that.
So that was my winner for technical production. What was your winner?
My winner was Super Mario Brothers, the movie. And I mean, much for the same reasons, artistic production. I mean, the animation is spectacular in this movie. They really did a great job with it.
They did a lot with like scale too, like seeing the Mushroom Kingdom at like a large scale, larger than we've ever seen it in a game, you know? It makes me excited for the prospect of, you know, maybe a next generation Mario that could really like give you like a massive city to explore or something, you know?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So our next category is excellence in technical production for a game. So my runner-up is Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty. Cyberpunk is a stunning game, and part of this doesn't just go to Phantom Liberty itself, but to the updates, the patches that were made to Cyberpunk 2077 when they started adding in like path tracing and all these other, they did so much. Like Cyberpunk has become the game to demo ray tracing. Isn't that kind of funny how it just like, it is the game that's always, every time there's like a new version of ray tracing coming out on NVIDIA cards, it's always Cyberpunk is like the first game to implement it and to be used to show it off. And the stuff they've been doing with path tracing and the new versions of that and everything else is just absolutely stunning in that game. It just looks so good. It's like at the very top end of what you can expect graphically from a game. And, it kind of blows my mind that it's capable of that. And I mostly play games on Switch. I don't really play much off of that. And so this is like the one that really grabs my attention from the non-Switch games. And I think it's an incredible technical production.
Oh, absolutely. Agree with you there.
What was your runner-up?
Okay. My runner-up was Super Mario Bros. Wonder. again, the animations, the way the Wonder Flowers, like, change the levels. Just an excellent game all around.
It's seamless and smooth, too.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it's very good. It was a very fun experience. It was much better than I initially expected when it was first previewed, the game. So, but yeah. And our winner is the same. We picked the same winner, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. And
for obvious reasons.
You know, with my runner-up, I picked like Cyberpunk 2077. Obviously, Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom isn't graphically even close to being on the level of like
Here's
Cyberpunk.
what's impressive.
But it's doing so many things that seem impossible. And it's doing them on the Switch.
Yes, this is a Switch game. You gotta remember, it's a Switch open world game, and it does things. They added like the Sky Islands to it.
Oh, diving from the Sky Islands and then going all the way through to the regular map and then into the depths in one seamless motion.
There's no loading between, it doesn't stop to load in data or anything.
It's insane.
Yeah.
It's so good that they added in like volumetric clouds and stuff in this one. Like they just look stunning. The performance takes a little bit of a hit, but the fact that it's a Switch game and it's pulling off what it's pulling off is like insane.
It's mostly smooth. The majority of the time.
And do you know what really gives it, for me, what really puts it over the top is the technical production? It isn't the graphics, it's the physics.
Yes. Well, it's the
physics
Ultra Hand.
in that game. Ultra Hand, it's just insane.
The fact that, you could do the things you could do with the Ultra Hand, you can do a lot of stuff that's it's out of the game maker's control.
Yeah.
And I've seen people do stuff build these massive structures and the game handles it fine. It just takes it.
Yeah.
It's oh yeah, we can do that.
It's crazy. And then there's there's a specific shrine in that game where there's you can attach a car to this rope bridge kind of thing and go through this lava. And game designers have been calling that out and saying that they have no idea how that's even possible. And they don't mean on Switch, they mean period. They're
You're right.
the things that this game is doing with the physics in that shrine is blowing the minds of fellow game designers. They can't understand how it even works. And they've been talking about that. It's been all over the place on the internet. If you've read up on the game as it was, when it's in its peak hype era, there is just so much talk about that. And it's crazy to think that a Switch game is the one that's pushing tech so far in design of a game,
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Our next category is excellence in technical production for a TV or streaming series. My runner-up was Gen V, which I think it did everything the boys did. It didn't necessarily do anything. That's why I wouldn't give it the artistic award here. But in the technical production, it just did everything so well. And the way the boys and Gen V have always handled powers has always been fantastic. And it's just a great production. And I didn't expect it to be as good as it was. They went all out. They put all the effort and energy that they put into the boys into Gen V, and they didn't necessarily have to do that, and I don't think it was really expected that they would do that, but they did.
No. Gen V surprised me in a lot of ways. I was surprised that I enjoyed it as much as I did, because it was fantastic. I am a little sad that I did not give it an award this year, but I just felt as much as I enjoyed it, it did feel it was pretty standard, the boys, stuff.
Yeah, that's why I couldn't give it an artistic production award or something, because I'm this is really what the boys did. If I was talking about Boys Season 1, then maybe, but not with it kind of doing the same thing. But I think on a technical production, it really surprised me that it was doing as much as it did for a spin-off series. I wasn't expecting it to get that much love and care.
Oh, for sure.
Tell us about your runner-up.
Okay, my runner-up for this category was Loki. Again, this is technically they're doing a lot of things. Again, you got Loki's time slipping. You've got the entire sequence in the finale. All the sequences where people are just getting turned into spaghetti. A lot of special effects work.
Damn, that pie looks delicious.
Yes, that pie did look delicious.
I even think they did an excellent job recreating that old is it early 80s, 1970s era McDonald's and stuff.
Yes.
It really made me nostalgia.
Yes, it did. Yeah, they did a really convincing job making a retro McDonald's, which is nobody asked them to do that, but they did. Yeah.
So our winner is again the same. We picked the same thing for a winner this time again, and that is The Last of Us.
Yes. I mean, it's a lot to go in they had to build this entire, like post-apocalypse United States world that the characters inhabit, that you have the creatures, the creature designs, and it all just comes together beautifully.
Yeah, in particular, the scene that I really think of is when they're in that one town and they're trying to help those two brothers escape. And
yes.
then the mushroom zombies, I forgot what they're called, clickers and stuff, when they merge out of the ground and the one bloater comes out, the giant one.
Yeah, the giant one.
And just the way it's lit because there's all these explosions in the background and the way the fire's like lighting around him and stuff, it's just stunning.
Yes, it is.
It's a good example of like taking something horrifying and making it like gorgeous.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, and that's another thing. Like the show is beautifully shot as well.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Our next category is Best Performer in a Movie. Tell us about your runner-up.
Okay, my runner-up was Jack Black as Bowser in Super Mario Bros. Movie. I think the performance.
He's gonna do all the video game movies now, I think.
he is. I gotta admit, like, the performances in the Mario Bros. Movie was, like, its weakest part. I thought everybody was fine for the most part. I thought, like, Chris Pratt was fine. I thought, like, Charlie Day was okay as Luigi. Seth Rogen was Seth Rogen. But Jack Black comes into this and he just gives like 110%.
He eats the scenery with only his voice.
Yes, he put his entire soul. It's like, man, he just comes in here and he's like, he treats this like he's going to win the Oscar.
Yeah.
And I love him for that.
Yeah, Jack Black is kind of becoming like one of the prime voice actors of actual regular actors that do regular acting for their main job, who also do voice work. He's kind of become like the head of that entire pack.
Yes, exactly. Cause you can tell like he is not just phoning it in.
Yeah.
Like he has genuine passion for this.
Peaches, peaches, peaches.
Yes, and that song, yeah. It's a phenomenon. So yeah, I loved him in this movie. So good.
So my runner-up is a movie that I just watched today. I was like, I always towards when this podcast episode is coming up and we're going to be doing our best of 2023, I get in like a desperate rush to like, I'm like, oh, I never watched this and I never watched this. And I kind of go crazy. And so just today, before we did the podcast, I watched The Killer on Netflix, which is the new, David Fincher movie starring Michael Fassbender. And Michael Fassbender is predictably amazing in The Killer, as you'd expect from Michael Fassbender in general in pretty much any role, right? He's just a phenomenal actor. And he's just so good as this very mechanical, very stiff, very almost like robotic killer. He's like a hitman, and he's just so precise and slow and accurate, and everything's like meticulous, and he just does such an excellent job of portraying that character.
Nice. I haven't seen The Killer personally myself, so I'm just gonna go with what you said.
Tell us about your winner.
My winner was Chukwudi Iwuji. I think that's how it's pronounced. I'm sorry if I mangled that. As the High Evolutionary in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Fantastic performance. Honestly, the best villain in a Marvel movie in a while.
Yeah. There's been a few good ones here and there. Like Phase 4 had a few good ones, but not that many. Like Marvel movies aren't really known for having great villains. Every so often they, knock it out of the park. Loki in Avengers or Thanos in Endgame or something like that, like where they knock it out of the park. But usually they don't have a villain that really stands out. But yeah, definitely the High Evolutionary was a great villain and very well performed.
Oh, yes. Just seeing the stuff with him and like Rocket's backstory and stuff. Just good stuff.
Yeah. My winner is, again, pretty predictable. It's Joaquin Phoenix as Napoleon Bonaparte in Napoleon. I thought the movie was okay, but what are you going to expect if you're going into a movie starring Joaquin Phoenix? Are you going to expect anything less than like a masterclass in performance, and acting?
Right. He puts everything into like his performances.
Yeah. And he's absolutely stunning as Napoleon. He plays this very kind of different take that I haven't really seen on Napoleon, where he really kind of plays up some of the buffoonery without making it comical.
Right.
Like kind of showing how this guy is kind of ridiculous in a lot of ways, but he's still scary too, and Joaquin Phoenix like really does an excellent job of portraying that, as you'd expect.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Next up, we have Best Performer in a Game, and I'm going to start with my runner-up, which is Idris Elba as Solomon Reed in Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty. full disclosure, I haven't played a ton of this. I don't really have a lot to go by with video games. I didn't really play that many games, and the ones I played were like Zelda and Mario Wonder, which didn't have a ton of like strong voice performances in it, you know? But Idris Elba is fantastic as Solomon Reed. Idris Elba, again, always fantastic in everything he does. But yeah, he's really good as this like cyberpunk spy character, this old spy character that's being activated, and he's presenting with that, and it's really just a solid performance all around. Tell us about your runner-up.
Okay, my runner-up was Matthew Mercer as Ganondorf in Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Here's the thing, also like you, I did not play many games this year that involved performers or story.
Yeah.
So, like, I had a limited pool, but I thought Matthew Mercer, Ganondorf, was amazing. Obviously, I generally liked all the performances in Tears of the Kingdom, but yeah, his was really good.
Okay, my winner is Chermai Lei as Female V in Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty. I adored her performance in Cyberpunk 2077. It's just as good, if not better, in Phantom Liberty, and all the additional stuff they just added to the game in the last year as well. They added new like romance options and stuff, and every time she's performing, she's excellent. I absolutely love that character, and I'm so glad I picked the female character instead of the male character, because Chermai absolutely kills it as that character. Just does such a good job, and I love it. So that is my winner. Tell us about yours.
My winner was Nick Apostolides as Leon S. Kennedy in Resident Evil 4 Remake. I thought he did fantastic, Leon. It's kind of tough in like remakes and stuff of classic games where they recast the actors, you know, and it's kind of like you gotta like the actors gotta live up to people's memories, or like my memories of playing the original version of the game. And I thought like his Leon sounded great. You know, it didn't like sound off to me or like pulled me out of the experience based on my familiarity with the original version. So, like, I thought that was fantastic. Fantastically done.
And we have a special mention in this category as well.
Yes, Mick Winger as the flowers in Super Mario Bros. Wonder. It's funny because, like, people seem to, like, hate the flowers for some reason, and they're, like, think they're annoying. There's an option you can turn off their dialogue, and I'm like, why? I think they're funny. I think their dialogue is funny. Obviously, Mick Winger's performance, it goes a long way towards why it's so charming to me, like that in the writing. I don't know. I just like them. Other people want to turn them off. That's fine. I personally wouldn't do that.
Yeah. I'm only sad that it came out that there was a mode that they cut from the game that didn't get it to the final version, where it was going to have like a tsundere narration. Would have made it even more amazing, I think. You know, who knows? Maybe they tried it and it just didn't work. But man, that was a bit of sad news to hear about that and know that it was cut in the same time. But our next category is Best Performer in a TV or Streaming Series. Tell us about your runner-up.
Okay, my runner-up was Tom Hiddleston as Loki in Loki. Again, Tom Hiddleston. I mean, he did it last year too, but he absolutely kills it in this role. I really, love this season of Loki because, he's doing a version of Loki that goes from, the boilerplate villain to, the entire series, it's this whole growth arc, especially, in this season, where he's kind of, realizing what motivates him. And it's kind of, spelled out to him. He wants all these people to be his friends. And, that's what's explained to him in the one episode. And I just think Tom Hiddleston kills it in taking Loki through this personal journey of growth. It's fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Loki is a culmination of years and years and years of Marvel performances, and Tom Hiddleston kills it. And that character, he emblemizes that role. It's a role that existed before him, but now you can't imagine anybody else playing it.
Right. Oh, for sure.
My runner-up is Nick Offerman as Bill in The Last of Us.
Oh, yeah, that's fantastic choice too. Nick Offerman was amazing.
Such a good episode.
Yes. Nick Offerman, he won, I think it was a Golden Globe recently for that performance.
Yeah, as a guest role in a TV series.
Yes. Well deserved.
For comedic actor that is showing so much more range, it's fantastic.
Yes.
And so tell us about your winner.
My winner is John Hamm as Roy Tillman in Fargo.
Oh yeah.
Roy Tillman is such a bastard, and John Hamm is so good at playing that.
Yeah, and it's not like a one-dimensional role either. Like there are times when you can see kind of like the struggle that he's going through, and it's never sympathetic. You never are like, oh, poor Roy Tillman, I feel so bad for him.
They never
you can
paint
see the
him in a
stress that
sympathetic
he's under and stuff.
Yeah,
you know? And it's fantastically performed. John Hamm is just an amazing actor. My winner is Justin Theroux as G. Gordon Liddy in White House Plumbers. White House Plumbers was a HBO miniseries about the Watergate scandal. And G. Gordon Liddy was a real person, and Justin Theroux plays him as this absurd buffoon of a character that, I mean, you know, gathers his family around and instead of playing music at dinner, plays Hitler's speeches. He's just like this absolutely insane. He looks like he'd hang out with Roger Stone. He's like that type of person. And Justin Theroux is just absolutely nails this performance as G. Gordon Liddy in this show, and is just despicable and just cartoonishly oafish, just ridiculous character. But it's based on a real person, and I think that contrast of, you know, this is based on a real person, but it's the most cartoonish character you've ever seen.
Right,
is like a fantastic contrast. So our next category is Best Cast in a Movie. This is overall cast rather than a single performer.
Yes.
Tell us about your runner-up.
My runner-up was Dungeons & Dragons. Dungeons & Dragons kind of flew under the radar, but watched it this year. Had a lot of fun with it. It's an action and comedy, you know, like very much in the vein of the Marvel movies, except obviously with the Dungeons & Dragons IP. I thought it had like a wonderful ensemble cast to it that made it work. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you know, like Chris Pine is in the lead, you know, like it's just, I don't know. I just thought it was fun.
Yeah, definitely. Dungeons & Dragons was a movie that surprised me. I didn't expect it to be as good as it was. It's just a really fun movie. And I think most of that fun comes from the cast.
Yes. Oh yeah, absolutely. And the chemistry between all the characters really worked. They all were like able to bounce off of each other really well.
Well, I'm going to let you go back to back and name your winner now, because your winner was my runner-up. So okay. I figured you should be the one to present it since it was your winner.
Okay, yes. My winner was Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I mean, obviously, it hasn't changed. You know, like the cast hasn't like really changed. But I mean, again, it's such a great cast, such a great ensemble cast of characters. I mean, it's the reason the movie is like so watchable. You know,
yeah.
It's
yeah, and it's a culmination too.
So
it's like these characters have evolved over the years. The actors have, you know, their chemistry has grown and developed over the years, and we've come to love them for the way that they're performed. And you know, there are a few new additions, Adam Warlock being a good example.
Yes.
But like, yeah, in general, it's a great cast. I mean, Guardians was so exceptional as a Marvel movie because it was like an ensemble cast. It was like this lovable rogues space adventure with like a great cast with great chemistry, and that's carried through all three of the movies, and it just gets better with each one because the cast, you know, like their chemistry develops over time.
Oh, 100%.
My winner is Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer was kind of the big movie that was heavily discussed this year. I think that and Barbie, which, you know, started the whole Barbenheimer thing. Yeah. I actually had a lot of issues with Oppenheimer. There was a lot of things I was not too fond of it for, but what I cannot disparage it for is its cast. Oppenheimer has a fantastic cast. So many people that just kind of pop up and you're like, oh, there's somebody else. Oh, there's, you know, Robert Downey Jr. is fantastic in it. You know, I mean, everybody is so fantastic in Oppenheimer. The cast is just so good. Florence Pugh is so good in it. Of course, Cillian Murphy is fantastic as the titular character, you know? Everyone is so good in that movie that it's like the one thing I can't really stand against. Like, there's a lot of things, like I said, that I have issues with Oppenheimer as a movie, but the cast is not one of those.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Our next category is Best Cast in a TV or Streaming Series. My runner-up was Fargo, which we mentioned before with the Roy Tillman character, but I just think, yeah, it just has a fantastic cast overall. We mentioned the lawyer with the eye patch, who is Dave Foley playing him, and the guy that plays Dot's husband. He's going to be in the new Alien series that Noah Hawley's doing, and I'm excited to see that because it's got to be very different from his portrayal here, because here he's like the most Minnesota character you've ever seen in your life.
Yes, he is.
Jennifer Jason Leigh is in it. Fantastic. You know, it's
Yes.
so many good performances. Every season of Fargo has a phenomenal cast, and this is no different.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Tell us about your
You're right.
runner-up.
My runner-up was The Last of Us. Again, so many great
Pedro
performances.
Pascal, Bella
Ramsey. You know, you mentioned Nick Offerman.
Oh, yeah.
Only in one episode. He absolutely killed it. You know, it's like great.
Her name escapes me right now, but Tess was played by the girl from Fringe.
It's just great performances all around from everybody involved.
Yeah,
you know?
Great.
Yeah.
Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey in particular are so good.
Oh, yeah. And their chemistry, just really great. Easy, runner-up. Actually would have been my winner, had One Piece not happened.
So you already mentioned yours, so let's let you jump into yours. Your winner is One Piece.
Yes. Again, it's the best ensemble cast of the year. What can I say?
It's a great cast and of mostly unknowns too, which is really nice too.
Yes, very nice. They all do a fantastic job bringing these characters to life. I especially love Luffy.
Yeah, there's more love coming to him later in other categories. But One Piece had a fantastic cast.
Yeah, absolutely. Inaki Godoy is Luffy. I mean, he's amazing. Like all the actors in this do a fantastic job with their characters.
Definitely. My winner is What We Do in the Shadows. I debated this because, you know, it's been so many seasons, you know, so it's like, do I really put this over what happened before with past seasons? But as we mentioned with Guardians before, it's like a culmination. With every season, the chemistry between these characters grows and you understand more of the characters' relationships. And then when the performances come out, they just really sing. And there have been some additions to the cast too. The one woman from the Vampire Council that's trying to get into their friend group now, you know?
Oh, yes.
Kristen Shaw as that character just absolutely kills it.
Yes.
And Nandor in this season at the end with the whole dealing with the kind of betrayal of Guillermo, you know, and
that's going more into, Guillermo and Nandor's relationship, you know?
It's just so fantastically done. The chemistry between all of those actors is fantastic. This is another category where we have another mention, our special mention, and that is Scott Pilgrim Takes Off. I've only seen a few episodes of it. It's not particularly blowing my mind in terms of cast or performance, but what is just absolutely mind-blowing is that they got nearly the entire cast from the movie to return for this series. And this is a cast that has become exponentially more famous over the years.
Yes.
This isn't a bunch of B-listers or something. It's this was a bunch of C-listers that are now a bunch of A-listers. And they all returned for this series. It's fantastic. It's really cool that happened.
Absolutely. Really awesome. They all agreed to come back.
Mm-hmm. Our next category is Best Story in a Movie. Start with your runner-up.
My runner-up was Dungeons & Dragons. Again, it's a fun movie. It's a really fun heist type story. Really lighthearted. I don't know. I thought it was entertaining.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely, and fun movies can have great stories too. A story isn't just for dramatic effect, you know? It can play into the dynamics between the characters and stuff, which was what Dungeons & Dragons did so well. My runner-up was The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, which is the Hunger Games prequel series. It just had a really interesting story because it's basically the backstory of a villain. It's a prequel. It's a backstory of a villain, very kind of Darth Vader-esque in that concept that you're getting kind of this sweet character that you end up finding out is becomes this huge villain or something. But what makes The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes interesting is that he kind of portrays himself to certain people he's fond of as a sweet character, but he's really not. He's already kind of a monster, but he's just kind of on the line. He hasn't really done anything super irredeemable at the point that the movie starts. But then as the movie progresses, he just starts becoming more and more of a villainous character. And it's it's a fall. It's a major fall. And that makes it an interesting story to me because you enjoy this character, but besides his faults, and by the end, you understand why he's such a hated character in the original movies. Like, you can see him reaching that point, and it's very well done. I have to give it a lot of credit for that. This time, for the winner in this category, again, we picked the same one, and that is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I've been using the word culmination a lot. Again, the culmination of the story of the other two Guardian movies, the relationships of all of these characters, the way it comes together. I have to say, and I mentioned this before, I wasn't sure how to take it that there weren't like major deaths, basically, in amongst the cast for this movie. And it's because I was so expecting there to be. And then when there really wasn't, I kind of realized it's better for having not done that. That it was able to achieve closure without doing that. Just as well, if not better, than if it had done that. So it's like an interesting thing where you always hear people go like, oh yeah, you know, such a waste. The end of the movie, like nobody really dies. It's like the final movie with this group and nobody dies. Like what were they that means they didn't really play it at risks or anything. And I'm like, it didn't even need to. Like the character dynamics were so strong in the movie that by the end, their goodbye was making me cry just because these characters saying goodbye to each other and without even having a character die.
Yeah, it was really, really emotional.
Mm-hmm. Plus all the stuff with the high evolutionary and the animals and the way they were mistreated. And it's just so heartbreaking in so many ways. It's just such a good example of a comic book movie and a Marvel movie being more than just kind of a comic book movie, you know?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Next category is Best Story in a Game. My runner-up was Octopath Traveler 2, which advances upon the story of the first game. It's not a continuation, but they took a lot of the ideas that they went with the first game, which is basically like very much like a 16-bit RPG type storyline where you have like these, it's very kind of operatic and kind of like big in the sense that you have these characters. It's like the character faces a betrayal and that betrayal has to be like something out of an opera, something out of, you know, it just has to be like overly dramatic and strong, but without being like cheesy. Like you have to be invested in it, but also kind of like aware that it's going so big, you know? And I think that they did a great balance of that with Octopath Traveler 2. It made it a really fun story to play through. Tell us about your runner-up. My
runner-up was Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Again, like it's not like the best story in a game like all year, but I thought it had a pretty good story. It's similar to like Breath of the Wild, where like people like to go on like, oh, that game has no story. Like there's story. There's story to it.
It's just not linear story.
Yeah, it's just not like a linear story. It doesn't like interrupt you with like long cutscenes about like, oh, this is so and so. Like you're watching like a movie. Like in Breath of the Wild, you know, you got story tidbits. Like there was like the paintings or like the pictures. There's the pictures that you got like from the paintings or whatever, and then you go to find that spot and you get like a little scene that take place in the past that gives the backstory, and like you had to go seek those out. And you know, it's like much the same thing with Tears of the Kingdom. Is like a lot of stuff you have to seek out, and people like get that and they're like, oh, there's no story.
There absolutely is. And I like the way that those memories in Tears of the Kingdom led to probably the best Master Sword get scene in the franchise. It all kind of culminated together in that and made it very excellent. So, definitely like a cool sequence for that as well. My winner for best story in a game is Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty. Again, I have not finished Phantom Liberty, so, you know, full disclosure there, but it's just fantastic. Even the individual side quests have fantastic stories. That was the case with Cyberpunk 2077. The main game before the DLC as well is the same kind of thing where you would go on a quest and the quest for that could have been like its own sci-fi movie or something. And it's just a side quest. And that is definitely the case in Phantom Liberty as well. The side quests, the main quest, everything that's going on, it's just absolutely fantastically told. CDPR in storytelling is like just ahead of the game, I think.
Oh yeah.
So tell us about your winner for best story in a game.
My best winner for best story is Resident Evil 4 remake. I mean, it's a classic story. You know, creepy cult kidnaps president's daughter. Man saves president's daughter from said creepy cult and kills a lot of weird monsters in between.
A tale as old as time.
Yes, tale as old as time. I mean, it's funny because, like, yeah, like, I know, like, a lot of people don't play, like, Resident Evil games for the story. The stories are, like, goofy, pulpy, like, sci-fi horror stuff. But I enjoyed them. They're enjoyable enough to me for me to get invested in, like, the characters and the lore. So, you know, I don't mind it.
Mm-hmm. So, next category is Best Story in a TV or Streaming Series. Give us your runner-up.
My runner-up was Last of Us. The show comes up a lot, but, you know, like, it's just a really fantastic story of, like, these two survivors trying to make it through the apocalypse.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about Tale as Old as Time. It's the Lone Wolf and Cub story template,
yes.
You know, done extremely well.
Absolutely.
My runner-up is Fargo, which is still ongoing. There's still episodes coming out that we haven't yet seen.
One episode dropped today, I think, and then the last episode's dropping next week.
Yes. And we will be talking about that next week. So preview.
So it's a story
next topic is Fargo.
So it's a story that as of here, you don't know how it ends, but you were still confident enough to make it your runner-up.
Yeah, definitely. Like, it's one of those things where Fargo could terribly let me down, or it could pay off in the most epic of ways. I haven't yet gotten there yet, but I took the risk, and I picked it as my runner-up because it's just so good, and it's such a good setup for a comeuppance. And maybe that comeuppance won't come around, but if it does, if that comeuppance comes around at all, it's going to feel so satisfying.
Yeah, it's going to be catharsis, for sure.
Yeah, and it's just really well done, as every season of Fargo has been. Our winners are the same. Again, we picked the same thing for the winner, and it's something that I don't think we've mentioned yet in any of our categories.
But I knew as I was going through my winners, I knew I had to put it somewhere.
Yes, definitely. Pluto.
Yes.
Pluto, for those who don't know, we covered it on this show before. It is a retelling of one specific arc of Astro Boy by one of the best manga author and writers alive, the award-winning Urasawa, who did Monster and 20th Century Boys. And he does this kind of like retelling of Astro Boy through this like noir kind of detective lens with this kind of like existential ideas and concepts really coming more to the forefront than they were before.
Yes. I love how like they switch the perspectives, they switch the protagonist to this like detective character. Really bold, but ultimately brilliant choice. I mean, this is the show, like I remember like I watched the first episode and I remember like immediately like messaging you and being like, this is a new all-time classic. That was just after the first episode.
Yeah.
It didn't let up from there. You know?
It just got better.
Yeah, it just got better.
Yeah, it is an amazing series and it comes from an amazing pedigree. So it lived up to expectations.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. It blew me away.
Our next category is Best Gameplay Loop or Hook in a Video Game. This time we got the same one for our runner-up, which is Ultra Hand, and I put and crafting in The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom.
Well, I think Ultra Hand is the crafting. So
yeah. Well, it's mainly crafting, but it's also just moving things and stuff.
True.
So,
but yeah, the Ultra Hand, obviously, it's Tears of the Kingdom's big hook that distinguishes it from like Breath of the Wild. And the developers admitted this in interviews, like it's built off of the stuff people were doing with the physics in Breath of the Wild. Like they said, you know, like developers, they said they watch YouTube videos of people like using the items in the world, you know, and the physics to create like, like flying machines and stuff and all this crazy stuff. And they said, what if we just made that a core aspect of the gameplay?
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing because, like, having this actually be, like, a part of the gameplay and not, like, be something, like, that you have to, like, hack together with stuff that's available. That
using exploits, yeah.
Yeah, using exploits really opens it up to, like, so much more that you can do in this world. And, I mean, you go on YouTube, you watch videos of, like, the stuff people are doing in Tears of the Kingdom with this, and it's just insane.
Yeah. My winner is from the same game. And it's an ability that I don't think got as much attention as Ultra Hand, but this is the one that blew me away even more than Ultra Hand.
Oh, really?
And so my winner is Verticality and Ascend in The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. And And I think the Ascend ability is mind-blowing because it works everywhere.
Yes.
And the amount of QA testing that must have gone to like make that work so that you didn't just get stuck, you know, in random places and lodged into like a rock or something that you couldn't get out of. Like the amount of work that it must have taken to make that actually happen is like mind-blowing.
Yeah, it's insane.
And it did things that the moments that I remember most of that game, like one of the moments that stands out most to me is there's a part where there's a guy, he's in like a shed or something and it's locked and he can't get into it. And his wife wants you to find out what he's up to. And this is just like a silly Zelda side quest type thing. It's not like a big deal. It's not like a major part of the plot or anything. But the way you can get into that shack is that they made this insane network of wells and caves in this game too. That, you know, everyone talks about the depths, but what I liked more was just the caves and all the wells and like breaking all the rocks and making your own passageways through these like massive networks, like cave networks and stuff. That was like a much bigger thing for me than the depths was. Like obviously not bigger size wise, but like as far as my enjoyment in the game. I was really into that. And then you go into a well in this town and it has this massive sprawling network. It's not like it's something right near it. And you find this area and what you had to do is you had to like basically jump on top of the shed before you went into the well and mark it on your map. Just mark the exact spot of that shed. And then when you go through in the cave system in the wells, you can find that exact spot, line yourself up underneath it, hit ascend, and you ascend right into that shed. And it was such a satisfying moment. Like it felt so good to me playing that moment. Like it was probably, like as odd as it sounds, it might have been like my favorite moment in the entire game. When that worked, when I did it and it worked, and I was like, oh god, that was so cool.
That's sure.
It's just like, I think that played a huge part of it. And I wrote down verticality and ascend because I think they're tied together, even though they've not necessarily used at the same time all the time. I think you ascend vertically, obviously, but verticality plays a part also in just, as we mentioned before, going from Sky Islands to the regular map to the depths. You have this sense of verticality. And even the maps, there's like 3 tiers of the maps. And sometimes when you're exploring the depths, you have to use the map of the regular overworld to make your way through the depths, which you can't really see that well in. So you can figure out like, oh, well, there's like a body of water here, so I'm not going to be able to cross. And you don't really know that until you either run into it or if you're using a different map. Like you're using a map for the surface when you're in the depths or something. And that's all part of like verticality to me within the gameplay. I think there's so much attention put into the verticality of the game, which was kind of surprising considering Breath of the Wild already added the climb anything mechanic. That was such a huge part of that game. And for that to just be so completely outdone by the amount of verticality they added in here is just kind of shocking.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell us about your winner.
My winner was the Wonder Flowers in Super Mario Bros. Wonder. Again, I love
flavor.
Flavor. Well, I mean, I love this mechanic because like it's a huge twist on the Mario formula. Like, you know, you go into a level and, you know, like they're pretty standard Mario levels. The thing I love about the Wonder Flowers is like as soon as you touch it, like all sorts of craziness happens. Just wacky stuff, you know, like you got piranha plants marching and singing. You know, all of a sudden, like you're walking on the wall, you know, anything can happen. You think part of it is like, it's like when you pick it up, you don't know what the heck's going to happen with that.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. That to me really made the game is those moments of whimsy, those moments where something just happens and you just have no idea. And it's like, what the hell? Like, you know, you're suddenly in a musical number or like you have to take a trivia quiz or something, or there's like you said, you're running on the walls or you turn into a Goomba, or like there's just so many different things that happen with those Wonder Flowers that are just crazy, and some of them will repeat themselves, some of them you see like multiple times, but when you get like some new effect, when you like hit a Wonder Flower and it's something you haven't seen before, it can just be like you can make you burst out laughing, it can make you go like, oh wow, that's so cool, you know, like it can do so many things. It can make you like nervous because like it could make something that's just really difficult that happens and you're like, oh my god, how am I going to get through this? You know, you just have no idea what's going to happen. So the second you see that Wonder seed floating in the air before you jump into it, you're like, okay, I need to mentally prepare myself. Something's going to happen. What's going to happen? And then you hit it and you're in for some quality time.
Oh, 100%.
Definitely. Our next category is Best Protagonist. My runner-up is Rocket, as portrayed by Bradley Cooper in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
Oh yeah. Guardians 3 was Rocket's movie. Rocket was the lead in that movie. He stole the show.
Yeah,
for sure.
Definitely. It revolved around him.
Probably the most emotional performance Bradley Cooper ever gave in his career.
As a CG raccoon. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, such a great role. Rocket was always a really cool character, but yeah, this movie really puts the focus on him. So your runner-up was actually the same as my winner, and that is Monkey D. Luffy, as portrayed by Inaki Godoy in One Piece.
Yes, I mean, fantastic performance.
Charisma out the ass.
Yeah. Oh yeah. How could you not love this character? How could you not want to see this character succeed in everything he does?
Yeah, it's so funny
because
he's such a stupid character, like intelligence-wise, but you see that character and you're like, I would follow him into hell.
Yeah, right, yeah, exactly.
He is my captain. He's such a great character, portrayed so well, and such a hard character to nail too. And they just got somebody that is he just is Luffy. And that's like, even the creator of the manga, even Ichiro Oda, has said that like, he is Luffy. Like he saw the test auditions for the actor and just said, this is Luffy. This is my Luffy. There is no other Luffy. And, that's fantastic. Such a cartoonish and weird, stupid character, and they bring it to life and make it wonderful.
Oh yeah.
Tell us about your winner.
My winner was Richter Belmont, as portrayed by Edward Lubell for Castlevania Nocturne. Again, Castlevania Nocturne came out, like, I enjoyed it. It wasn't as strong as, like, the last, like, couple seasons of, like, the first Castlevania, but I thought it was still excellent. And I really, like, love this portrayal of Richter Belmont, you know, as a man, you know, like, you know, scarred by trauma, almost, like, defined by it. And his journey, he puts up, like, this front as, like, this strong, indifferent person. When it comes down to it, you know, like, he cares about his friends, you know, he is genuinely, like, afraid too, you know, to his core. It's, you know, so many dimensions to his character in the show, and Edward, like, really, like, knocks it out of the park with the performance. And, you know, it's just, like, a really great, like, adaptation of Richter Belmont, in my opinion.
Our next category is Best Antagonist. If you have a protagonist, you gotta have an antagonist.
Yes.
Tell us your runner-up.
My runner-up was The High Evolutionary from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, for all the same reasons I gave as best performer.
A man of science, but a monster.
Yes. He is a true monster, you know, who for fiction purposes, he's like one of the best monsters. He's one of those who thinks like he's out to like make the universe better. He thinks like his goals are noble. Mm-hmm. And that's what makes him, like, you know, such a great villain.
Mm-hmm. My runner-up is Deadeye Ellie, as portrayed by Elisa Sutherland in Evil Dead Rise. Now, Deadites are not like zombies. They have personality. And that's one of the things that always stood out with Evil Dead movies, is that the evil is, like, giddy. It enjoys, like, inflicting psychological damage on people. And it just really goes over the top with it. And I think in Evil Dead Rise, that was taken to a whole nother level by making it the mother of most of the characters in this, most of the main characters in this are the children of this character, who are seeing her possessed and evil and having to cope with that, with her just terrorizing them emotionally and physically. And she just does it so fantastically. I think the writing also plays a part in that. There's a line in it that she says where like she falls, she's in the bathtub or something, and they're like looking at her, and she reaches her hand out, and they're like, "Mom?" And she said, "Mommy's with the maggots now."
Yes, that was great.
And it's such a creepy line, and it's so well delivered, and it's kind of funny, but like in a really dark way, and it's just horrifying at the same time. It's just nailed it. Such a good role.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Our winner for Best Antagonist, again, we picked the same character, Roy Tillman, as portrayed by John Hamm in Fargo.
Oh yeah, it's an amazing performance. And again, like, he's one of those villains where he's an absolute monster, but he believes he's in the right. In this case, Roy, you know, like, he believes he's on the side of God,
He's a right-wing Christo-fascist.
Yes.
And he plays that pretty much exactly, like he really rings true. That this is like one of those kind of timely roles too. It's like we're dealing with a lot of people like this in reality right now.
Well, one thing is like this season of Fargo is set in 2019. So this is set during the last year of the Trump presidency, like right before, COVID hit. And it's like where like all this stuff, all this right-wing lunacy was at its height.
Yeah, and it all comes across super well. And John Hamm does a fantastic job of playing this really despicable character, and in a very convincing way. A very popular and likable, but horrible person. I say likable, meaning he's charismatic,
Yeah, he does have a charisma to him. And also like a character like you're really anxious to see his downfall.
Yeah, I mentioned before, like this season of Fargo is a really great setup for like a really good comeuppance story.
Yes.
And that's the comeuppance we're waiting for.
Absolutely. Can't wait.
Our next category is Best Platform of the Year. This could be a video game console, a streaming service, a channel. It could even be like a movie theater chain or something, or a format like IMAX, or it could be any kind of platform, basically, covering the range of video games, movies, and TV. Tell us your runner-up.
My runner-up this year was the PlayStation 5. Obviously, like, this has been a fantastic year for games. I can't deny that the PlayStation 5 has been really strong on that front. Between, like, the Resident Evil 4 remake, like, the exclusive games on PS5, like, Spider-Man 2, Final Fantasy 16. They had Baldur's Gate 3, exclusive for a few months.
Well, exclusive on consoles, at least, yeah.
Yeah, consoles. I'm not counting PCs. Traditionally, you don't count PCs when you talk about console exclusives.
Yeah.
Yeah, traditionally PC doesn't count. Yeah, I mean, it's been a solid year for the system, and I can't deny that.
Yeah, Sony's year has been about as good as Microsoft's year has been bad.
Yeah, exactly.
But, my runner-up is Netflix. I think I should almost just call this like the Netflix award for platform of the year at this point.
Yeah.
But every year when you look at like the big shows and stuff that came out, or like big like streaming movies that came out, Netflix just, I mean, it's insane. Like, it's like for every show on, like if you take one good show on every single other streaming platform, or one good movie on every other streaming platform, like Netflix has a match for all of them. It's insane. And it just happens year over year. It's just the sheer amount of content. And sometimes they have a bunch of misses too, but they just put out so much content that so much of it is just really good too. And so it ends up dominating my list every year for the best platform, just because it's just hard to believe how much content they put out every year.
Yeah, for sure.
And again, we got the same winner. Take it away, Will. What is our winner?
It's the Nintendo Switch.
Yeah.
I mean,
Zelda and Mario in the same year, right?
Yeah. I mean, Zelda and Mario in the same year, it's going to be a good year. This has probably been one of the Switch's best years since 2017. So many bangers. We started out the year strong with the new Fire Emblem. Then we got Zelda. Then we got, Pikmin
Metroid
4.
Prime, our remaster.
Yeah, the remaster for Metroid Prime.
Pikmin 4, yeah.
Yeah, Pikmin 4, Mario Wonder, Super Mario RPG remake. It's been firing on all cylinders. And if 2023 was Switch's last year on the market as like the only system Nintendo is supporting, then it's been a fantastic last year for the system for sure.
Yeah, definitely. It's hard to understate how big it is. I mean, just like we said, you started off Mario and Zelda in the same year. That's just insane. It's happened before, and every time it happens, it's like mind blowing. It's like nobody else is even in competition when that point hits.
Oh, absolutely.
I have a special note for this category as well, and that is that I wanted to give some attention to Peacock. Now, Peacock, I couldn't give it the runner-up, and I couldn't give it the winner slot. It just doesn't have the wealth of content that Netflix does. It just doesn't. But it had so much good stuff this year, So much surprising stuff, some really unique stuff. It had that detective series with Natasha. I can't think of her last name right now. Oh God, I don't know why I missed this.
Leon?
Yes. She had this detective series on Peacock. It was excellent. It was great. That came out this year. They made a Monk movie follow-up. It was great as well. It was such a fun movie to watch. It was just felt like Monk again. They had Miss Davis, which is the new series from Damon Lindelof. And it's just weird. It's wonderfully weird. It's such a insanely weird series that like you just couldn't imagine why anybody would greenlight it. It's just too weird to be greenlit, but it is. And you love it for that. Peacock had a great amount of really interesting and different content this year. And it surprised me. It wasn't enough to make either the runner-up or the winner for me. It just can't touch the sheer amount of stuff that Netflix puts out, or like the massiveness of putting out like Zelda and Mario that Nintendo did, you know? It can't compete with that, but it's like, I think it deserves special attention for what it did do. Our next category is Best Comedy. This covers all of it. It covers TV, movies, games, whatever you can have in there. Sometimes the best comedy and best drama like fit more with one than another. You're more likely to see like TV shows or movies pop up than games in these categories, but it could be any of them. And I'm going to start with my runner-up, which was also your runner-up, Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah, that's solid return for Beavis and Butthead. I enjoyed the new episodes. Really can't go wrong.
Yeah, Paramount Plus is probably the worst of the major streaming services. But man, every so often you just need to get it because you got Beavis and Butthead and you got those South Park specials.
Yes.
And I think Beavis and Butthead surprised me. It was better than I expected. I loved Beavis and Butthead growing up, but this is just like, it's not even just a return to form. It's like, it's an advance beyond that. They started handling things from different time periods. Like you have this like version of Beavis and Butthead that are like geniuses from like a genius society and they're like bald. And then you have like this older version of Beavis and Butthead and stuff. And they found like interesting ways to tell new stories for Beavis and Butthead that you just would think like, oh, they're just going to rehash the same stuff and it'll be funny and that's cool. It's like, no, they found like entirely new things to do within that format. And it's just exciting. It's really cool. I'm really hoping that they do another season beyond that as well.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And my winner was Kunk on Earth, which is a semi-non-scripted series. It's like a special where a character goes around and talks to experts and interviews with them about certain topics and stuff relating to culture and Earth, except that this is kind of fake. Like the people that she's interviewing are real and they're really being interviewed, but the character Kunk, Philomena Kunk, is fake.
It's not a real person.
And she's just like this really stupid character and she just says things that are just kind of outrageous and off and like incredibly stupid and gets these very smart experts that she has on her show to just start questioning their life decisions for being interviewed by her. As you watch it, it's absolutely hilarious. There's like running gags throughout it. There's this running gag about the song Pump Up the Jam that's done like in every single episode. It's hilarious every time it happens.
Nice.
It's such a good show. If you just want to like laugh your ass off, Kunk on Earth is just a great choice on Netflix. So check that out. Will, what was your winner?
Okay, my winner was What We Do in the Shadows.
Of course.
Of course. This was a fantastic season. Like you said, every season, the characters and their relationships grow. I really loved, this was very much a Guillermo, focused season.
Yeah, Guillermo and Nandor.
Guillermo's, journey becoming a vampire, and, the consequences that wrought, especially, how that affected his relationship with, Nandor. It's just fantastic stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to what's, been announced as the last season.
Yeah, it's sad that it's going to end. I'm glad that it's probably going to end on a high because the last season was so good that I'm sure the next season will be great. And I would hate to see What We Do in the Shadows go the route of The Simpsons, where it just becomes something I don't watch anymore, And so I'm glad that hasn't happened yet. And so as sad as it is that it's coming to an end, I'm glad that it's probably going to end on a high point.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Our
next category is Best Drama. Tell us about your runner-up.
Okay, my runner-up for Best Drama was The Last of Us. I mean, does it need any more explanation at this point?
It's a great drama series, great post-apocalyptic story.
Yes.
My runner-up was Beef, which is something I haven't mentioned yet.
I've seen, like, yeah, it's interesting because, like, I noticed, like, Beef was getting, like, a lot of awards.
Yeah.
Attention, you know.
It's a fantastically made show.
Yeah.
It's kind of uncomfortable to watch because you're watching these characters and they have a beef between them. That's what the beef means. It doesn't mean, meat. It's they have a beef.
Where's the beef? I thought this was a show about the where's the beef, like, old lady.
No.
No.
But it's about these two characters. They're both Asian. And that plays into like kind of their dynamics of their relationship because they don't really know each other, but they have like kind of similar aspects to their lives because they're both, children of immigrants, Asians. And that kind of plays a role into it as well. There's a lot into like the different family dynamics between these two different people that, one of them is like at a really high point in her life and she's really stressed out, but she's having all these things go right in her life and she's really successful. And one of them is having the exact opposite. Everything is going very poorly in his life. And there is a traffic incident that occurs between them, an incident of road rage. And it just creates this beef between the two of these and they just become bitter, like adversaries that are just out to like ruin each other's lives. And every time they're doing something, you're like, oh man, come on, you're kind of projecting all the shit that you're going through onto this other person. You're not really that mad at this person. You're mad at your life and you're taking it out on this person. And you're kind of like, it's uncomfortable to watch because you see these people and they're just making horrible choices. Right, and you can understand where those choices are coming from. It's coming from this place of like desperation and anger. But it's like, man, if you do this, you're going to screw up your life so much. And they do. And they just keep doing it. And it just keeps getting worse. And it's such a fantastic watch. Like I said, it's uncomfortable, but it's incredibly good. And for a while, that was my top pick. But something else came in. Okay, so the joint winner for us in Best Drama, I'll let you take this one away.
Fargo.
Yeah.
Season 5. It's fantastic. It's hard to explain because like there's fantastical elements to it. Like you said, like it's got real colorful characters like the lawyer with the eye patch, but at the same time it's dealing like with real, sensitive subject matter. Like this season is like, it's about domestic abuse.
Mm-hmm.
The protagonist is a domestic abuse survivor, trying to get away from her abuser,
mm-hmm.
Who is actively looking for her. At the same time, again, we got these colorful characters. We got eye patch lawyer. We got like this hitman who is like something straight out of like No Country for Old Men. Like he's a real weird character.
I mentioned this to you before, but Noah Hawley did an interview when he did the first season of Fargo where he mentioned that his inspiration for doing Fargo as a series is to draw not just from the Fargo movie that the Coen brothers did, but from the entire collected works of the Coen brothers. So there's like in the second season, there's like a weird moment where it's like a maybe a UFO encounter or something. It's just like a really weird moment. And that's taken from, I can't even think of the name of the movie now. There was a black and white movie the Coen brothers did with Billy Bob Thornton. The Man Who Wasn't There, maybe? Something like that. But, it was straight taken from that movie. It's just a really weird moment, but, that's not in this season.
You have to see Fargo, reference, Raising Arizona.
Yeah. It'll reference basically the entire collected works of the Coen brothers in like really smart ways. Like it uses them in really, really cool ways. And on top of all of that, they turned This Is Halloween from Nightmare Before Christmas into a needle drop.
Yes, they did. And I love it because like they turned it into like not only like a needle drop, but they have like this whole segment like, where these guys are like, coming to kidnap Dot, the protagonist, for Roy, and they're wearing like Nightmare Before Christmas, like, costumes and stuff. I was kind of surprised, like, how heavily, like, they referenced, like, Nightmare Before Christmas in this.
Yeah.
Like, to the point where, like, oh, did Disney sign off on this?
Remember, FX is Fox, owned by Disney.
FX is owned by Disney, you're right, yeah.
Our next category is Best Animated Movie, Show, Cartoon, or Anime. So this is just basically anything animated. It could be a movie, it could be a TV show. I guess it could be a game if the game is particularly animated and not just like a regular playable experience. I guess you could count what was that old game? No.
It looks like an anime.
What was that old game?
Cuphead?
In the arcade? No, in the arcades where you, where it was like, it would play a scene.
Oh, Dragon's Lair.
Dragon's Lair would qualify in this totally,
I mean, Cuphead looks like cartoon.
Cuphead probably would too, yeah. It's like a lot, I guess anything could count in there, but we have our winners and runner-ups. I'm gonna start with my runner-up, which is Blue Eye Samurai, which
I've been hearing a lot
I've heard lots of good things about it. I was kind of a little hesitant. I'm not a big fan of the whole like Western anime thing, and when that's kind of pushed as a thing. Honestly, I think anybody who calls Blue Eye Samurai like anime or Western anime is getting it completely wrong. It isn't like that at all. It has more in common with like Arcane than it does with like anime. It kind of fits more into that kind of range. It's really good. That's not to take anything away from it. I'm not saying that in like an elite way. Like, it's not good enough to be anime, or it's not Japanese enough to be anime. It's like, I mean, it literally takes place in Japan, you know? But I just don't think it's even going for anime. It's not even trying to be anime. It's just trying to be a really good animated series, and it is. It's fantastic. So that is my runner-up. What is your runner-up?
My runner-up was Castlevania Nocturne. Again, it's fantastic. I love Castlevania. They kill it with every season. This probably would have been my winner, except for, something else that came out.
Before I mention our dual winner, which again, we picked the same one for winner in this one, I have to point out something interesting. Every single winner in this category and runner-up is a Netflix show.
Yeah.
Netflix had a good year for animation.
Yes, they're killing it with the animation.
And our winner for best animated movie, show, cartoon, or anime is the same thing. It's Pluto.
Yeah, it's Pluto. I mean, how could it not be? It's just like a masterpiece.
Yep.
Again, I mentioned it, like, it completely blew me away with its, it's a very slick, deep philosophical noir story. It's amazing.
I want Netflix to do more of this, and I've mentioned it before, but they did Cyberpunk Edge Runners, and it was like a weird collaboration between CD Projekt Red and Trigger, the anime studio Trigger. They got together and they made this fantastic anime, and it's kind of like Western and Eastern influenced as well. You could call it anime, but you could also say it's Western. It's kind of both rather than neither. And they did that, and it was so great. And then they do Pluto, and Pluto it's anime. It's all Japanese. There's no like Western influence or anything in it at all. But what's fantastic is they did hour-long episodes, and they just played it to be serious. They didn't add like a silly opening where the characters are all dancing around and singing or something. And they didn't do the typical anime cliche opening ending type stuff. They just treated it very seriously and did hour-long episodes and kept the production levels really high. And I hope that Netflix just keeps doing this, that they keep reaching out and doing these kind of partnerships that you otherwise probably wouldn't get. Like, I don't think we would have gotten a Pluto anime if it wasn't for Netflix investing.
Oh, yeah. I don't think so either.
And if we did, it would be a very different creature.
Yeah, I 100% with you there. I hope Netflix continues to invest in these kinds of things. Netflix is leading in the animation department, and they have a chance to continue leading.
Mm-hmm. Our next category is Best Overall Movie. This is it for movies, the best of the best. My runner-up is John Wick Chapter 4, which is just so good. I can't wait for you to watch it.
I can't wait to watch it myself either.
It's it is the next level as far as like stunt movies or action movies go. It pushes the boundary so far. It does so many things that are so cool, and it just pushes the entire genre of action movies forward in such a way that it's so cool. It's hard to deny anything on that. Tell us about your runner-up.
My runner-up was Dungeons & Dragons. Again, I mean,
such a fun movie.
Such a fun movie, yeah. It's a shame it apparently didn't do well enough. Still where it's probably not going to get a sequel, because I think like a sequel would really shine, unfortunately. But I mean, yeah, it's just, I recommend if people are just looking for a fun adventure movie to definitely give it a try.
Chris Pine actually said he thinks a sequel is going to happen, which is kind of surprising because it didn't do that well.
Yes.
But I really do hope there is a sequel. I really just want a bunch of Dungeons & Dragons movies like this, even if they're not the same cast. I want this kind of tone for Dungeons & Dragons where it's more about the fun and the adventure than like, not making like a Lord of the Rings style fantasy where it's really gritty and dark and stuff.
Yes.
But like just a fun fantasy adventure with a party that has good dynamics between them. And I just want more of that. Our winner for Best Overall Movie, it's the same for both of us again. We picked the same one. And it could only be, take it away, Will.
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
Yep. Culmination of a great trilogy. James Gunn's last Marvel movie.
Yes.
There's so many things to say about it. And we've said them all.
We said everything there is to say. It's excellent. One of my favorite Marvel movies of all time.
Yep. It's definitely like an S-class Marvel movie. Our next category is Best Overall Game. We picked the same ones again, but in this case, they're in reverse order.
Yeah, they're in reverse order.
So let's,
I surprised you.
So how about
Yeah.
You give me your winner, which was my runner-up.
Okay. My winner was a surprise, Super Mario Bros. Wonder. This game lives up to its name. It's full of surprises, full of character. It's got the extremely tight platforming that you expect from a Mario game. It's just a wonderful, like, treat of a game through the entire thing.
Just fun.
Yeah.
It's just fun and flavorful and unique. Yeah. And my winner, which was your runner-up, is The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. I've mentioned before on this podcast, I still like Breath of the Wild more than Tears of the Kingdom. I think in some ways Tears of the Kingdom is a bit of a letdown for me. But Breath of the Wild was my favorite game of all time. Not like of the year, of all time. It still is my favorite game of all time. So a letdown from that is still, in my mind, easily the best game of the year. To me, at least.
Yeah, because Breath of the Wild, that's a tough act to follow.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people say that Tears of the Kingdom made Breath of the Wild, like, obsolete to them. It's like, I just like Breath of the Wild more, but Tears of the Kingdom is so good. And from a technical level, like, what it achieved is so phenomenal. It's just a great game.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal game. I think I might like it more than Breath of the Wild, but obviously, that's the fun thing about, like, these things is, like, you can argue. It's like the same argument, people have about Super Mario Bros. 3 or Super Mario World, where, like, the quality is, like, that close between that. You could have, like, legitimate arguments over, okay, which one's better. You have a debate over that, and, because it's not super obvious, and I love that.
And our next category is Best Overall TV or Streaming Series. And in a rare feat, this one is all different. We have 4 different shows.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised. I thought I was definitely going to be more in line with your picks. I could see where you're coming from, though, with your picks. Not with Beef, because, like, I haven't even watched, like, a second of that, so, like, I'm kind of, like, trusting
I'll start with
you.
that, then. My runner-up is Beef. I already mentioned before, it is a very uncomfortable but very excellent show. It was a surprise. It's something that kind of came out of nowhere, took the internet by storm, really surprised me, and was a very addictive watch. And I quite enjoyed it, and I hope there isn't a second season, because some things don't need a second season. Some things are just complete stories on their own.
Yeah,
and
that's fair.
Beef feels that way to me.
I think with Beef is what I heard is, like, they're doing it as an anthology series. So
that could work.
Second season's going to be like a different story.
That could work. Tell us about your runner-up.
My runner-up was The Last of Us, because it came out and, it just amazed me, especially, like, in the realm of, like, video game adaptations, that those have been, like, kind of mediocre the past, few years.
To squash the old urban legend that a video game could not be adapted into something else,
Right, yeah. And this came out, and for this to come out and for this to, like, rival, like, prestige dramas, because that's what this is, is an achievement.
Mm-hmm. Yep, definitely. My winner this year is Fargo. Again, Fargo is amazing. This season has really blown me away too. I've absolutely loved this season.
Oh, it's blown me away too. Absolutely. I am kind of surprised. I guess, like, what I was hesitant about and what stayed my hand here is the fact, like, it's not finished.
It's not done yet.
So, like, I'm kind of like, do I want to? If, like, there's still more to come. But yeah, no, absolutely. I've been hugely impressed with this season of Fargo. It absolutely is, like, one of my favorite, like, shows of the year.
Tell us, what was your favorite show of the year?
Pluto. Because, again, mind-blowing.
Yeah. So good. Such a masterful work.
Yes.
Urasawa is a legend.
It is a masterwork. It is a classic. This is going to be, studied and discussed, when people are talking about, like, the masterworks of the genre. Like, this is going to be listed among them.
Yeah. Pluto's excellent. And again, I really hope they do more stuff. In particular, I mentioned this before when we discussed Pluto on the show, but Urasawa did a series called 20th Century Boys, and everyone says, like, oh, that'll never be made into an anime. That's, like, impossible. They'll never do it and stuff. And it's like, I would kill so many people to have a 20th Century Boys anime. But yeah, and I think with what Netflix did with with Pluto. I think that's the right choice. Like, I think Netflix doing a 20th Century Boys anime would be absolutely mind-blowing.
Yeah.
But Pluto is it's excellent. It's such a good series. So that's it for our categories, but we have our negative Nancy parts here, which is, we have some regrets and disappointments that we wanted to go over from the year. And for Will and I, both of our regrets come down to things that we just didn't get around to. Things that we weren't able to see for whatever reason.
That's what I assumed, like, you meant by regrets is like, oh, what did you regret that you couldn't, like, watch or include in this?
Yeah, and that's pretty much what we both got from that. And for me, I had two big regrets, things that I missed in theaters that I really wanted to see. And I'll still eventually see them, but I just wasn't able to see them in theaters, and that makes me sad, is The Boy and the Heron, which is the latest Miyazaki Studio Ghibli movie, and Godzilla -1, which would have been amazing to see in theaters, I think.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And for sure, like, those would be included in mine, for sure. I mean, I have many regrets for the past year of stuff I did not get around to that I desperately wish I would have. And for me to, like, list all of them, it would have taken a while. So I just narrowed it down to, like, two big ones that I just thought, like, I really wanted to check out. And that was Baldur's Gate 3. I mean, it's a big Western RPG, Dungeons and Dragons game that came out and, like, blew everybody away. It got all the accolades, and I'm really super interested in. I actually did manage to get a copy of it, like, last week. So I hope to jump into that pretty soon, but could not in time for this awards, unfortunately. And the second thing was Oppenheimer. It's the big Christopher Nolan movie. It became a phenomenon over the summer. I think, like, announced it's Christopher Nolan's most successful movie of all time. It made, like, an insane amount of money for, like, essentially, like, a 3-hour, like, docudrama about, like, a physicist. which is crazy, it's like not the material that you would associate with summer blockbuster, but somehow, like, they managed to do blockbuster numbers with it. And it, it sounds overall excellent. I love Christopher Nolan's work. I love, like, the actors involved, Cillian Murphy. So, like, it is a movie I want to see.
Yeah. So, and next up we have our disappointments for the year.
Yes.
So Will, give us your disappointments.
Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania.
Yeah.
I really want this to be a stronger movie.
That was kicking off the whole multiverse phase.
Yes, like the whole multiverse phase, and it just goes down like a wet fart. Yeah. It's just, oh man. And The Mandalorian, Mandalorian wasn't as big of a disappointment as Ant-Man and the Wasp, because I still enjoyed season 3 of The Mandalorian, but it definitely wasn't as strong as the first 2 seasons. Like,
Yeah, it was disappointing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had 3 big disappointments this year for different reasons, I think. Fool's Paradise, which is the Charlie Day movie. It was his passion project.
Oh, yeah.
It was so bad. It was the most disappointing movie I saw this year, easily. I was so let down by it. I was so looking forward to it, and I walked out and I was like, this might be the worst movie I've seen all year. And I think I saw another movie that I ended up liking even less than Fool's Paradise, but I wasn't expecting anything from it, whereas Fool's Paradise actually thought it was going to be good and was severely let down. And then I had 2 TV series that were big letdowns for me and for you, I believe. Secret Invasion.
Yes.
Which we both talked about before it came out, that Secret Invasion, it looked like Winter Soldier. It was like, wow, this is going to be the Winter Soldier of the Disney Plus Marvel shows. And no, it was garbage.
Yeah, it just sucked. They didn't do anything, like, interesting with the premise. Like, they had this premise, like, set up where they could have made, like, this psychological espionage spy thriller where, like, you didn't know, like, who was who or who you could trust, and instead they just, like, spell out, who is who, and they have the protagonist going around, like, knowing, like, what is what the entire time.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, no.
And the other big disappointing show was Justified City Primeval.
Yeah, unfortunately. It didn't hit the highs of Justified. I think that was mostly down to for me, I think it was just like the supporting cast just wasn't as strong as it wasn't Justified.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Raylan was great. I thought they had a great villain. They had some good performances. It just did not click in the same way.
Yeah. I mean, that was the shame. It's like, this should have been a contender for a lot of the best of categories.
Yeah, it really should have.
TV and streaming, and it just wasn't, because it just didn't come together right,
Yeah, exactly.
That is it for our Best of 2023 awards and our regrets and disappointments that followed. And that is it for our show. Next week, as I mentioned before, we are going to be talking about season 5 of Fargo. That is going to wrap up the day we're going to talk about it. So we're going to watch that last episode, jump on the podcast, and talk about that whole season. We already talked about it a bunch here because it's excellent, but we'll have more to say next week when that is our main topic. So look forward to that. Thank you everybody for listening. You can reach me on Twitter. I'm at Tyson Gifford. You can reach Will. He is at Voxel Hero. You can check out our website, thetotaliscreen.com. If you go to that website, open up a container store for any of the podcast episodes, scroll down to the bottom paragraph, and you'll find all of our relevant links to all of our social accounts, everything else, any other way that you need to subscribe or find the podcast is all available there. You can also subscribe to the podcast to your favorite podcast client of choice, like Apple Podcast or Pocket Cast, just by looking up the OnScreen podcast or the Total Screen. If you look up one of those, you should be able to find it, hopefully, in your favorite podcast client. And you can find all of the episodes of this podcast and other works that we've done in the past, including our old podcast, The Weekly Set, is all available on our YouTube channel. So check that out if you want to watch any of those episodes, or even go way back and listen to us talk about Hannibal or Game of Thrones. It's all there. Check out. Thank you everybody for listening. Good night. Thank you for listening to the OnScreen podcast, the official podcast of The Total Screen. Visit our website at thetotalscreen.com. This podcast can be found on any major podcast client, including Pocket Cast and Apple Podcast. The entire backlog of this podcast and other content can be found on our YouTube channel.